Yes, I'm Satin Genal, the son of Al-Keblan, the Pan-Africanist, the nationalist, and the patriot. Today I'm replying to my sister Justin from Kaliro district in eastern Uganda, that is Busoga region. She asked me, do you believe in Bachwezi? Why do you believe in Bachwezi yet you're a Christian? Yes, I don't only believe in Bachwezi, but I'm one of the Bachwezi, I'm part of them. And people misinterpret Bachwezi to be demons, no. Bachwezi were people like us, Bachwezi were people like any other tribe. Only the misinterpretation came after the coming of the whites. And I want to warn you Africans, what you should know, your enemy can't write positivity about you. Most of the information that they wrote about our kingdoms were myth, were lies, because they wanted to weaken our Africanity. Now this is where the Bachwezi get their name Bachwezi. The name Bachwezi came after the downfall of the great Genji or Shenzi Empire under their last queen, Queen Kojere Rushijamiryango the First. When Queen Kojere Rushijamiryango the First resigned and left the throne in the to Ndahula I, Nyakitoto Rugambanabato was defeated by his own gatekeeper, Bukuku. And when Bukuku took over, Kojere Rushijamiryango couldn't accept to see the throne she was leading being taken by a gatekeeper. She came back from wherever she was and defeated Bukuku using the Abasongora Machumu fighters, and the kingdom were later named after them, Obusongora Kingdom. And after creating Obusongora Independent Kingdom, they decided to form a group of rulers, the parliament of the people who will decide and check over the powers of the king and check over the powers of the aggressors from outside, who will control external attacks and control internal conflicts. The parliament was made of the people called Abatwa. Abatwa, Okutwa in Rusongora means this, presiding over, judging or deciding or giving a ruling. Okutwomsango, Okutwobulemu, Okutwentaro. And the Abatwa were known as the Abatwezi. Abatwezi, Abakutwa. Those who were presiding, who had the powers to preside, like the judges or the rulers were called the Abatwezi. And then Busongora, they helped Busongora to establish and conquer the weaker states around it, and Busongora turned to be the Chwezi Empire, which was the kingdom, now became the empire under the Abatwezi. Now, the confusion came from here, where the Bachwezi mysteriously got the supernatural powers and the people called Bachwezi to be demons. Here came a king known as King Kakara Kashagama. King Kakara Kashagama was a prophet king who tapped his powers from his great-grandfather known as Kakama. Kakama ruled over the Genji Empire in the year 850 up to the year 875. Kakara Kashagama got misunderstandings with the parliamentarians, the other Bachwezi, the parliament of the Chwezi, Abatwa, and he left the throne. He abdicated the throne and left it in the hands of her daughter, known as Kamaranga. When Kamaranga came to take over the kingdom, she found when everything was disorganized, and then she asked the parliamentarians, the Abachwezi, Ninjinaki, what have I come to save? And then later she adopted that name from her frequent asking, Njinaki. She was she was called Njinaki Kamaranga. Njinaki Kamaranga got the name the way you see. President Idi Amin got the name Dada because of frequent calling girls Dada. Dada in Swahili means sister. And he ended up getting the name Dada, and he was introduced as Idi Amin Dada. That's how Kamaranga got the name Njinaki. There is a misinformation Banyankore has. Banyankore said that Njinaki was a maid in the Ankore Palace, and Kakara Kashagama came and told her, no, that's not. Actually, Njinaki was not a maid. Njinaki was a queen. Njinaki was a queen. She was called Njinaki Kamaranga Kashagama. Njinaki Kamaranga Kashagama, because of the name of the previous ruler, Kakara Kashagama. Njinaki was a queen, not a maid. I will tell you that in another video. Today I'm straight to the Chwezi. The Chwezi get their powers from Kakama and Warusiri. In the year 50 BC, there was a technology known as Diodorus Sicarus. Diodorus Sicarus happened in the year 500 BC, whereby the people who were living near the current day Mount Ruwenzori, they used to call it the Mountains of the Moon. The Mountains of the Moon has not started today. It started 50 AD, back 50 BC, back long time ago. And this technology is estimated to have taken all over 25,000 years back. What happened then? When the mountains were forming, the eruption and the volcanicity, it disorganized the patriots who were living in the area, and they decided to move away, and it opened up their eyes under their king called King Warusiri. Warusiri moved and defeated the Nubia kingdom in Egypt, in southern Sudan. He went and defeated the Aksumite Empire in Egypt, and he ended up and defeated the Kushite Empire in Ethiopia. And he established his rule. Because pastoralism was becoming a problem because of the change of the seasons, he decided to establish a new calendar depending on the cycles of the moon. And the calendar was called the lunar calendar, which was established in Egypt in the year 1436. The lunar calendar was later adopted by the Asian to also start praying their god following the same calendar, and they called it La. And the Kushites also adopted the same calendar to worship their god called Yahweh, and they called it Jah. So that calendar was followed to determine seasons, and the days were recorded on the papyrus. And this is where the civilization of writing started in Egypt. Actually, it was not started by the Egyptian. It was started by a Msongora king called Warusiri, who had conquered the period by then. The Terafasa and the Agona, who later believed in his ideology, and the Mizraim, that was, those are the people who believed in King Warusiri, and they were regarded as the son of the moon. Warusiri is the reason why he named Egypt as Misri. Misri meaning many gardens. When he reached there, he stopped depending on only cattle keeping and started cultivating, and Egypt was full of his gardens. And those gardens were later adopted. The ideology was later adopted by the pharaohs who came after him. Now, when the Greeks came, they were interested in the ideology, they were interested in the civilization of construction. Actually, even the idea of pyramids that were built in Egypt, those three pyramids look up straight to the stars called Orions, the three stars in the sky that move three. Those three pyramids, the great pyramids of Egypt, they got the experience from King Warusiri, who had the divine powers of talking to nature. And he had discovered those stars before America had got telescopes to look in the sky. And that's how the later Egyptian managed to continue with the Warusiri and the Mizraim ideology to keep tapping divine powers of nature and looking at the nature. They ended up building those pyramids. Now, kings like Kakama. Kakama comes from the word Okukama, and Abakama means those who were cattle keepers and depended on milk. Kakama ruled over Busongora and the Genji dynasty in the year 850 up to the year 875. All these are the origin of the word. All these are the origin of the supernatural powers of the Basongora and the Bachwezi. They believed in the divine creator. I will come and tell you how Mukama and Ruhanga and Karuhanga came the names to dominate all the kingdoms that has the origin of the Bachwezi. The Bachwezi were not demons. Even when you look in the Bible, there is no any verse that talks about the Bachwezi as the demons. And all the curses and all the evils and all the demons, we don't have any demon in the Bible called Bachwezi. It was just dominated by the Christians and the missionaries who wanted to erase and rub away the name of the Bachwezi in the history because they were supernatural powers and they fought them. For example, the Nyabinji cult was difficult for them, and even King Kasagano gave them hard time to the extent of dividing the kingdom into two through Lake Albert. Thank you so much. I will give you the details in another video. I remain the Patriot Satin Genal. Thank you.